Hello and welcome to class 632. Okay, let's finish our vocabulary. There are only 2 words left, so it's very quick. I'm on page 136, list 12, number, I can't see the number, the next to last, the penultimo, the next to last, I think number 24. Lanzar o arrojar, to throw cuando es con la mano. Puedes lanzar una flecha, arrow. Yes. Saeta voladora que cruza arrojada al azar, sin adivinarse dónde, temblando se clavará. Do you know that? No? Saeta voladora que cruza arrojada al azar, sin saber dónde, temblando se clavará. All right. That's Gustavo Adolfo Becker. All right. So, I shot an arrow. You shoot. In English, we shoot an arrow. Now, there is an expression in English. I shot an arrow into the air. Where it came down, I know not where. Fíjate que dice, I know not. En vez de I don't know. Antiguo inglés. I know not where. I shot an arrow in the air. Where it came down, I know not where. All right. But si es con la mano, it's to throw. Lanzar. To throw. Claro, lanzar puede ser cohetes. It's to launch. To launch. También lanzar un producto al mercado es to launch. Launch. No digáis lunch. Lunch es almorzar. No puedes almorzar misiles. Puedes lanzar misiles. But you can launch missiles, but don't lunch missiles. All right? They're not good for your health, probably. Lanzar o arrojar, to throw. To throw. También un lanzamiento con pie en fútbol is to kick. So in English, we have about 4 or 5 different words for lanzar. Lanzar, yes. So, to throw. Ilimitado, sin límite. Unlimited, yes, unlimited. That's an easy one. Limited, unlimited. Limited, unlimited. All right, paragraphs. Number 135. These paragraphs. There are 198. Do you think we'll finish? Probably never. I don't think so. I dread, paragraph 135. I dread the idea of having to go back there. First of all, it's so confusing that you have to ask the girl at the information window where to go. But to see her, you have to stand in line for at least an hour because everyone else has to do the same thing. It would drive the sanest man crazy. All right. This paragraph is especially difficult. I dread the idea of having to go back there again. I dread the idea of having to go back there again. Esta frase contiene una redundancia incrustada en el idioma que hacemos. También aquí se dice luego después. Eso luego después es redundante. Luego o después. But some people say both. Luego después. Bajar abajo. Vamos a bajar abajo. Voy a subir arriba. It's completely redundant, but people use it all the time. And in English, we do the same thing. I dread the idea of having to go back there again. To dread. Judge dread. To dread is odiar. No esperar con cero ilusión, sino todo al revés. That's to dread. Voy a tener que ir a ese funeral y no quiero ir a la verdad. I dread. Yeah. I hate is yo odio algo. I hate these pencils. Estoy harto de estos lápices. I hate. But to dread means lo contrario de esperar con ilusión. Esperar con total desilusión. Esperar con total antipatía ante una cosa. I dread. Tierra, trágame. Entonces voy a mi muerte segura. I dread. Como el pasado de read con de delante. I dread having... Odio el tener que volver ahí otra vez. I dread having to go back there again. ¿Y la redundancia, Richard? ¿Dónde está? Where's the redundancy? I dread having to go back there again. If I say go back, yes, otra vez. Again is redundant. You can say, I dread having to go there again, or I dread having to go back there. But here it says both. I dread having to go back there again. It's redundant, but it's very common. It's very, very common. Yes. We use redundancies all the time. I have to go back and start from scratch again. Tengo que volver atrás y empezar de cero otra vez. I have to go back and start from scratch again. But esto dice, I dread having to go there, to go back there, volver ahí, de nuevo. I dread having to go back there again. Why? Why do you dread having to go back there again? First of all, antes que nada, o sea, primero, first of all, festival no, first of all, suena igual. Festival, first of all. Bueno, la fonética es parecida. First of all, it's so confusing that you have to ask the girl at the information window where to go. Yeah. It's an airport. You go into the airport, and it's not like a normal airport. You say, well, where's the check-in counters? Well, this is an airport, yeah? It doesn't look like an airport. Well, I'll go to information. I have to go to, for example, Lufthansa or American Airlines, Iberia. I have to go, where? And there's no information, nothing. Well, there's the information booth, la cabina de información. Pero hay una cola de 100 personas because they have the same problem. So this is the problem here. I dread the idea of having to go back there again. First of all, it's so confusing that you have to ask the girl at the information window, la ventanilla de información, you have to ask the girl at the information window where to go. But to see her, you have to stand in line for at least an hour. For at least an hour to stand in line. The British probably would say to queue up. Colarse, o sea, de ponerse en cola. No colarse, pero ponerse en cola. To queue up. For at least an hour. Because everyone else has to do the same. They can't figure out where to go. It would drive the sanest man crazy. It drives me crazy. You're driving me crazy. Me estás volviendo loco. Marta me está volviendo. She's driving me crazy. The situation is driving me crazy. Those lights are driving me crazy now, and they drive me crazy every day. Yesterday they drove me crazy. They would drive any person crazy. They would drive you crazy. They would drive her crazy. To drive somebody crazy. Cuando uno se vuelve loco, uno to go crazy. Me estoy volviendo loco porque ella me está volviendo loco. I'm going crazy. Cuando es uno, volverse loco, uno is to go. Remember, to go crazy, to go mad, to go nuts. Siempre con to go. To go up the wall, subir las paredes. To go up the wall, pero con to go siempre. Cuando es uno mismo. Cuando es por estímulo externo, ese estímulo to drive me conduce a la locura, me conduce paredes arriba. She drives me up the wall. Sometimes she drives me up the wall. Not true. She drives me up the wall. Me conduce pared arriba. Okay. She drives me up the wall. Yes. To drive somebody crazy. And here it says, it would drive, la situación en ese aeropuerto, it would drive the sanest man crazy. Sane. Escrito sane. Sane. Sane significa cuerdo, no significa sano. Viene de la misma raíz latina que sano, sanidad, sano. But sanity no es sanidad. Sanidad es salud, cosas que corresponden a la salud. Sanidad pública, sanidad, sistema sanitario. But in English, sanity is cordura, psicológica. Y nada más, sanity. Yeah. In front of the camera, sometimes I have trouble keeping my sanity. Sometimes I start going crazy. But I'm a sane person, I think. I'm not a crazy. Am I a sane person or a crazy person? I think I'm a sane person. All right. Insane, insane escrito, is loco. De hecho, antiguamente, now it's not politically correct, but los manicomios del siglo XIX se decía mucho insane asylum, asilo de insanos mentales, insane asylum. Ahora es hospital psiquiátrico parecido, a psychiatric hospital. But originally it was insane asylum because these people were considered insane. So sane. So here it says, the sanest man, el hombre más cuerdo, se volvería loco. It would, ello llevaría, o sea, volvería al más sano loco. It would drive the sanest man crazy, and probably the sanest woman. I dread the idea. Tenemos que mover ahí. Odio la idea, hasta me repatea la idea. I dread, sin ninguna ilusión, I dread the idea of going back there again. First of all, it's so confusing that you have to ask the girl at the information window where to go. First of all, it's so confusing. Yeah. Is this class confusing for you? Confuso? ¿Te confunde? Is this class confusing for you? O sea, confundiente in English, confusing. It's very confusing. Everything in life is very confusing. I don't know what to do. And when I go to that new airport, the new terminal, Terminal 8, where do I have to go? There's no indications, there are no signs where to go. Oh, there's the information window. Oh, there are 100 people waiting at the information window. Eso es lo que pasa aquí. I dread the idea of having to go back there again. I dread the idea of having to go back there again. First of all, it's so confusing that you have to ask the girl at the information window where to go. Por donde tengo que ir. Where to go. But to see her, you have to stand in line for over an hour, or for at least an hour, por lo menos una hora, because everyone else has to do the same thing. It would drive the sanest man crazy. It would drive the sanest man crazy. Yes. Sometimes they design things that are complicated. The people who design things sometimes don't consider the customer's experience, la experiencia del cliente, the customer's experience. All right, paragraph 136. Are you ready? Troops were sent in to restore order, but it only made things worse. At least 3 soldiers were killed when someone threw a Molotov cocktail from a top floor window. The crowd of demonstrators didn't disperse until past midnight. This is a pretty, this reminds me, this could be, I wrote these paragraphs a long time ago. Let's see, I wrote these paragraphs probably in 1988. But I remembered the problems in Greece, in Grecia, in 1973. In 1973 or 1974. Several things happened. In 1973, Pinochet took over from Allende. The revolution, the coup d'etat in Chile was in 1973. In 1974 was the Carnation Revolution, or the Revolución de los Claveles, in Portugal, when Caetano was deposed and the colonels and captains took over. But in 1973, I think, or 74, was the Greek junta, la junta militar griega, was eliminated. And there was a lot of commotion, a lot of demonstrations. And so I think I wrote that thinking of that. And I was in Greece at that time, in 1973. Troops were sent in to restore order. Troops were sent in. Claro, es voz pasiva. Tropas fueron enviadas, las tropas. The voz pasiva, troops were sent in. To send into the middle of the city. Troops were sent in Athens, for example. Troops were sent in to restore order. Se enviaron tropas, sería en español probablemente. O tropas fueron enviados. Troops were sent in to restore order, restaurar el orden público. Troops were sent in to restore order, but it only made things worse. It only made things worse. Solo logró empeorar las cosas, ¿no? It only made things, hizo las cosas peores. It only made things worse. At least 3 soldiers were killed when someone threw a Molotov cocktail from a top floor window. So someone is up at the top of a building and threw a Molotov cocktail down. And at least 3 soldiers were killed. The similar thing happened in 1906 here in Spain, in Madrid. In 1906 in la Calle Mayor. Alfonso XIII got married, and the wedding was in Los Jerónimos, behind the Prado Museum. And from Los Jerónimos, the plan was to go to the Royal Palace. In Ópera, the Royal Palace. And they went down Carrera de San Jerónimo, down to the Puerta del Sol, and they continued on the Calle Mayor to go to Calle Bailén. Just before, about 100 meters before, or 150 meters before, an anarchist threw a bomb from a window, and it killed about 16 or 20 people. But it didn't injure the king or his English wife, the queen. It didn't, they were not, but they were, of course, shaken up. And the story says, I don't know if this is true, they say that Alfonso XIII said to his wife, his new wife, said, "No te preocupes, son gajes del oficio." The bomb. I'm not sure if that's true. The gajes del oficio, I'm not sure if that's true. But this is different. Troops were sent in, enviados dentro. Troops were sent in to restore order, but it only made things worse. It only made things worse. At least 3 soldiers were killed when somebody threw a Molotov cocktail from a top floor window. All right, Marta está mirando arriba. From a top floor window, yeah. All right. The crowd of demonstrators, manifestantes, we say demostradores, los que demuestran su enfado. Demonstrate. The crowd of demonstrators didn't dispersar. The same in Spanish. The crowd of demonstrators didn't disperse until past midnight. Pasada medianoche. Until past midnight. All right. So, troops were sent in to restore order, but it only made things worse. It only made things worse. At least 3 soldiers were killed when someone threw a Molotov cocktail from a top floor window. The crowd of demonstrators didn't disperse until past midnight. Until after midnight. All right, we have finished paragraph 136. All right. Remember, these paragraphs are not for speaking. These paragraphs are designed for your listening. Don't try. In the future, we'll have a new book that is designed for speaking. Memorizing shorter, very short paragraphs, 1 or 2 sentences, and you reproduce them orally at home. To memorize them, and you say them aloud to gain agilidad, ganar agilidad verbal, to gain oral agility. No, but not these paragraphs. These paragraphs are to listen, just to listen to them, passively. All right, paragraph 137. We have time? Yeah, I think so. We have about 6 minutes. All right. He gets by thanks to a small pension he received from the army. Apparently he was wounded in action in Vietnam and is partially disabled. Since he got back to the U.S. more than 25 years ago, he's never even tried once to find a job. It's interesting. This paragraph, on the other one I said 1988. I probably wrote this paragraph in 1993 because it says since he got back to the U.S. more than 25 years ago. And I'm referring to the Vietnam War. La Guerra de Vietnam, the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War lasted 30 years, really, from 1945 when the Japanese left until 1975 when the Americans left. And the first part was between the Vietnamese and the French up to 1954. Then there was a period between North Vietnam and South Vietnam with problems. And then the Americans started coming in, etc. And it lasted until 1975. All right, he gets by thanks to a small pension he received from the army. He gets by. He gets by. Se apaña. Se las arregla. He gets by. I get by. I have enough money. Tengo dinero suficiente para salir del paso, para apañarme. I have enough money to get by. Sé suficiente francés para apañarme en París, para salir del paso. I know enough French to get by in France, to get by. Ahora, este señor se apaña gracias a una pequeña pensión que recibe del ejército. He gets by thanks to, gracias a. He gets by thanks to a small pension he receives from the army. Apparently, por lo visto, yo no sé, apparently he was wounded in action durante acción en Vietnam. He was wounded in action. That means fighting. Wounded is herido. Herido de guerra, o de arma blanca, o de arma de fuego. Es to wound. Injure es una lesión, de caerse o algo así. That's an injury. But a wound es una herida de guerra, o de arma. Apparently he was wounded in action in Vietnam and is partially disabled. Parcialmente incapacitado. Discapacitado. He is partially disabled. All right. Since he got back to the U.S. the U.S. is the United States. Desde que él regresó, desde que llegó de nuevo, de regreso. Since he got back to the U.S. more than 25 years ago, he's never even tried once to find a job. Okay. He's never tried even once, ni una sola vez. He's never tried even once to find a job. So he was wounded in Vietnam. And because of the wound, he is now partially disabled. Not total disability. He's partially disabled, but he receives a pension from the army because of this disability. Yes, a small pension, but apparently it's enough because he's been back in the United States for 25 years. 25 years living off the small pension, viviendo a costa de esa pensión, gracias a, thanks to that small pension, and he hasn't tried even once to find a job. He's partially disabled. He can work. But apparently he made the decision that he's not interested in working and he will live off that pension. But how much is his pension? It's about $2,000 a month. $2,000 mes, que son 2,000 euros ahora mes. 24,000. Tax-free? I don't know. Libre de impuestos? I don't know. Probably not. Probably not. But that's enough. But is 20,000 euros, $20,000 a year, is that enough to get by in the States? Not real. Well, in certain areas of the United States, yes. It's enough to get by. It's enough to get by. But it's not easy to get by. People earn much more in the States. The average income per capita, ingreso per cápita, is around 70,000 euros persona. It's high. In Spain, it's relatively low. The salaries in Spain are low. But in any case, this man, apparently he can get by. Apparently, al parecer puede salir del paso con esta pensión. Apparently he can get by. To get by. Se usa mucho get by. Yes, me las arreglo, no hay problema. He gets by thanks to a small pension he receives from the army. Apparently he was wounded. Apparently he was wounded in action in Vietnam and is partially disabled. Deshabilitado, o sea, incapacitado. Partially disabled. Since he got back to the U.S. more than 25 years ago, he's never even tried once. He's never even, ni siquiera una vez, he's never even tried once to find a job. Okay. Well, that's up to him. Ya su decisión. It's up to him. Okay. I'll see you tomorrow.